Hey everybody, Daniel Rubino here with WP Central, and just going to give you a quick tour of the Samsung Focus S running Windows Phone 7.5. This device was released this morning on at&t. Goes for $199 with contract, or about $550 without. It's got 16 gigs of onboard memory, and it is a fairly great device. It's kind of hard to see here in the video, but you can see how thin that is. It is very thin. I mean, we're talking easily the thinnest Windows phone out there. It feels really great in hand. It's got a nice roundness to it on the back here. It makes it feel great. And it is extremely light. That's partly due because it's all plastic. I don't have a problem with this. I know some of you guys do. It doesn't feel cheap to me, but it does feel very light. You will not feel this in your pocket. And I think for a lot of people that's a good thing. It is rocking a 4.3-inch Super AMOLED Plus screen. I'll zoom in here a bit. Maybe we can kind of see if it... You don't see the pen tile matrix anymore, which is basically the main advantage for this device. It is pretty nice, but the screen to me is a little bit dimmer than I would like. And it's not the end of the world, and if you're just using this device, you probably won't notice it, but in comparison to other Windows phones, it is dimmer than what I anticipated. Let's give a quick tour here on the back. We have the 8-megapixel camera, we've got the LED flash, pretty nice. Back cover, let's take a look at that guy. You get a little spot here for your nail, and it just peels off. If you thought the original Focus cover was cheap, this is even a little bit more flexible and thin. It's not bad though, but I'll explain in a moment. 1650 milliamp battery, pretty great size. Got your SIM card, no spot for expandable memory, and that's pretty much it below the cover. To put the cover back on, you slide it here. And then it's like a Ziploc bag. You gotta kind of go through and click it. Now, because it's thin, it actually does fit very nicely against the back, meaning there's no play, there's no spacing involved. In fact, it fits very flush with it, and it won't move around or come off, and you can't even barely tell it's there, to be honest. So it's actually not a bad design. I got your speaker right there at the bottom. Micro USB. Have a power button over here on the side. Camera button. Got your headphone jack. And of course your volume rockers are now on the left side. Buttons are actually really nice. It's probably my favorite part of this device actually. They're very prominent and have a lot of play with them. And so you can definitely feel them without looking at the device, which for me is the standard for using these. We'll head over to the About and Settings screen. As you can probably see here, if not I'll zoom in, 13.6 gigs of available memory. That's out of 16. I really don't have any software installed, just a couple of programs. That's pretty much what you get out of the box. I think it's ample enough for most people, but I know some of you will be disappointed. They do have this extra cool setting here. I call it extra settings. Use auto display intensity. Basically, this is for when you're using a white background. It's going to help save battery life by auto adjusting the colors and everything. Use key vibration feedback. That's for the haptic feedback down here with these buttons. You can actually disable that now, which is kind of cool. And echo cancellation for phone calls. I think most of us will want that on. Gives you better quality with your phone call though. That high fidelity position is enabled, which is kind of nice. And SIM applications, with I don't think anything is there yet. So that's pretty much it for any extras on this phone. There is internet sharing, hooray. It is on, or at least available. I don't know what happens if I turn it on, if it's going to give me a warning. Let's see what happens here. Now this phone is rocking at&t 4G, put that in quotes of course. It's yes, so they do give you the warning that you need to sign up for internet sharing. We'll back out here. But as you can see, I'll zoom in here. I do have 4G. It is pretty fast. I still think T-Mobile's speeds are a little bit better, but definitely nice to have the HSDPA Plus on this phone. Now let's do a quick comparison to some other devices. Here it is, the original Focus. The screen to me is much brighter on the original Focus. As I was saying, it's going to be hard to capture in video, but when you get your own or compare it in the store, you'll notice the Focus S is actually quite dim, but it's not terrible, but it is a difference. This phone is definitely shining a lot brighter right now. But the new device is way thinner than the original Focus. I really like the design of the S. I think it's great. Now let's put it up against the big guy. Here it is versus the Titan. You can see quite a big difference here in size. The Titan is still huge. Titan's also made out of metal, so it feels a lot nicer in the hand, but it's also of course heftier and you'll feel a little bit more in your pocket. Saying that though, the Titan is still pretty light. When I have it on pocket, I really don't notice it. So I wouldn't call it heavy by any standard. The screen, it's kind of hard to see on video. I actually like the Titan screen better. I know this may be, this is kind of shocking because I'm always kind of hard on HTC screen. But yeah, the Super LCD to me looks more natural. The blues on here are nicer, smoother, a little bit more realistic. The Focus S, the screen is more, well, it's kind of like the original complaint. A lot of people had the original Focus. It was very computerized looking. And that's still the case. It's not necessarily a bad thing, and if you're just using the Focus S, you won't notice it. It's only when you compare it to the Titan where you notice, something looks a little bit different. But I actually really like this screen a little bit better. Having said that, they're both pretty thin phones. You know, you gotta give the edge, I think, to the Focus S a little bit more, and this being all metal feels a little bit different. But they're both super thin devices. Now let's look at the radar. It tells the same story for me. The LCD on here I actually like a little bit better than the Focus S screen, both in terms of brightness and color representation. And if I could do, let's see, this is an interesting contrast. I might have to do a photo for this, but the whites on the radar and the Titan also look more white to me than the Focus S does. The Focus S has a blue tinge to it, whereas the Super LCD on the HTC devices to me is a lot more of a natural white. Once again, hard to get across in video, but you can kind of take my word. I'll try to get some photos of it to compare and contrast for it later. Other than that though, in sunlight both devices perform pretty well, and believe it or not, the Super LCD holds its own against the Focus S in sunlight. Also, you know, that's a big change between these two OEMs, but we'll do a more hands-on and comparison contrast between the screens later on in the week. But that's the Focus S for you. It's a great device, I'm not going to lie. It is very light, it's thin, it is fast, 1.4 gigahertz CPU on board, and the buttons are very nice and it's been responsive so far. So look for our full review in the next couple of days, and we'll be doing some more hands-on and contrast it with the other ACC devices out there. So there you go. Take care, everybody.